Hannes, you're muted.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to those of us joining us from Canada. Good afternoon to all those joining us from Europe. Welcome to this webinar, Invest in Canada, which carries its objective in the remainder of its title, namely to provide a practical guide for European businesses. My name is Hannes Schlömann. I'm a trade lawyer and trade policy advisor, director of WTI Advisors, and here as an expert for GOPA worldwide. This meeting, this webinar, is organized on behalf of the EU delegation to Canada and is part of a project called Support and Promote CETA Implementation 5th Anniversary and Beyond. And that leads me to set the scene, perhaps by saying CETA, the trade agreement between the EU and Canada, is now in its 5th year, or in fact, in its 6th year of implementation, 5.5 years after its provisional entry into force. And it is, I think, in many ways an unmitigated success. Success in terms of market opening, success as part of a partnership that is showing signs of being even more productive, more intensive, and more creative than even its protagonists would have predicted. And one of the things that is happening in this partnership is an intensive collaboration between the private sector and the governments. And I think today's webinar slots itself very nicely into this theme. Today, we're going to talk about investing in Canada with a focus, as I said, on European businesses. Let me therefore welcome all of you, and in particular those European businesses who are interested in investing in Canada, or at least learning about it for the future, here to this webinar. Before I introduce the opening remarks and the opening remarks speaker, let me turn to a few housekeeping remarks. Please note, as you would have noted when you joined the meeting, that this webinar is being recorded for posterity. Really, it will be available as a video on the European Union delegation website later on. This means we should all be ready to act accordingly, and that means in particular also to turn off your microphone when you're not speaking, or turn it on when you are speaking, which is what I did not do at the beginning. You may want to choose the active speaker view setting for a better meeting experience. That's of course entirely your choice. There are different preferences, but that is a suggestion that many find useful. Importantly, we do have interactivity in this meeting. However, we would like you to share your questions, remarks, comments in the chat function below. Please note this is organized as a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar. And as a result, there's no distinction between Q&A and chat. So please use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to field questions. And I will then put these to the speakers at the right moment. Lastly, please kindly rename yourself with your name, last name, and organization name so that everybody knows who is here. That is always very helpful. With those quick notes, let me just take a quick look at the agenda. We will have welcoming remarks right after this from Mr. André von Walter, the head of the Trade and Economics section of the delegation of the European Union to Canada. We will then hear from Invest in Canada, sort of the federal level, on investment services at that level, followed by 3 provinces, Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Alberta, from the respective investment promotion agencies or investment service offices in those provinces, and then importantly 2 of the major cities of Canada, namely Ottawa and Montreal. We will then have a half an hour for questions and answers, before I will try to wrap up with a little summary, perhaps come to a few takeaways, and then we will have some closing remarks again from the EU delegation to Canada. With that overview in mind, allow me now to turn to André von Walter. He is, as I just said, the head of the Trade and Economic section of the delegation of the European Union to Canada, and as such, the master of trade on the European side, at least as far as the delegation is concerned. André, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Hannes, and good morning and good afternoon to our participants from Europe. On behalf of the European Union delegation to Canada, I would like to welcome you to this webinar on investment facilitation opportunities and services that are available for European companies in Canada. As has been explained by Hannes, we are currently celebrating the 5th year of the application of the EU-Canada Free Trade Agreement CETA, and it is in this context that the European Commission, together with our partner GOPA Worldwide, is organizing a number of events to enhance the knowledge and also to promote the use of this agreement by European companies and by Canadian companies. CETA is already doing very well. We have seen an increase in bilateral trade flows between the EU and Canada of 66% since its application. And we believe there's room for more exchanges, in particular in times of geopolitical changes, of changing landscapes where solid partnerships with like-minded countries like Canada become more and more important for the European Union. And so today's event is not about trade in the strict sense, but about investment, but it is well known that trade and investment go hand in hand and can reinforce each other. Usually, the more there's trade, the more there will be investments, and vice versa. Recent OECD data suggests that firms that engage in foreign direct investments account for 2/3 of the worldwide trade figures. So there's a clear interlinkage here. And investments are not only beneficial, of course, for companies who invest, who can expand on other markets and grow, but they're also beneficial for the countries who receive the investments, because investments can create jobs and growth. They can spur innovation through, for example, technology sharing, through partnerships. So we believe investments are a very, very important part of our EU-Canada economic relationships. The EU and Canada bilateral investment relations are already very strong, with around 270 billion euros of inward and outward FDI stocks in 2021. But as I said earlier, in a changing geopolitical landscape, we believe that European companies may even be more interested in investing in reliable countries like Canada, countries who share our values, who have excellent business opportunities and the rule of law. And so I'm very pleased to have this webinar here today for European companies, and to hand over again to Hannes, our moderator, to kick off the seminar that intends to provide European companies with a clear overview, with more insights, with tips and tricks on how to establish on the Canadian market. So thank you very much all for joining, and I wish you a very fruitful and interesting seminar.
Thank you very much, André, for those very encouraging remarks that also set in just a few words an enormous width of the scene here. 2/3 of all trade accounts is accounted for by FDI engaged companies. That was a number that was new to me, and I think that itself speaks a very powerful language. Shared values, reliability, accessibility, and generally very friendly words about Canada. Saika Sarrazin the European market advisor at Invest in Canada. Saika, you're next, and I think those words must be just a very direct invitation for you to take this spirit further. You have the floor.
Thank you, Hannes, for the introduction. So hello, everyone. My name is Saika Sarrazin. As Hannes mentioned, I am the European advisor at Invest in Canada. I am so grateful to be here, and I am happy to share a few words on Invest in Canada, our services, and an overview of Canada's advantages when it comes to foreign direct investments. If you can go to the next slide. So I will be starting by explaining a bit more about who we are as an organization, and as well what our team at Investor Services we do as well. Next slide. So Invest in Canada, we are Canada's investment promotion agency. We were established in March 2018, and we were mandated to do to achieve three different objectives. The first one was to promote Canada as a premier place of business around the world. The second one was to facilitate foreign direct investment into the country. And finally, to accelerate the process of investing by coordinating with our federal, provincial, and municipal partners to fast track the investment decisions for our clients. Next slide. Thank you. With Invest in Canada, we are also pan-Canadian. Although our headquarters are in Ottawa, we do have regional offices from coast to coast, covering all of our provinces and territories. Next slide. And as for myself, I am part of the European market team. In collaboration with the market director for Europe, Dejan Velishka, who you can see in the picture. Unfortunately, he was not able to join that meeting today. And myself, well, in collaboration with him, we work directly with European multinational to identify and unlock business opportunities in Canada for future successful investment. As you can see, there's two more people that are missing on this slide. We're currently hiring to actually buff up our team for Europe so that we can facilitate more investment to Canada. With our team, we are Ottawa-based, but we work in collaboration with the Canadian embassies in Europe, which would be our investment officers, as well as the trade commissioners, to facilitate business expansion for European companies interested in coming to Canada. We also work closely with our provincial and municipal partners in Canada to make sure that we present the full Canadian investment story to our key investors from Europe. Next slide. My role is really to serve as a trusted advisor to our client. So I have highlighted in different ways that we can support clients with their investment analysis and to help them make their final investment decision. First of all, we can help companies with their investment analysis by providing strategic market intelligence that are specific to their industry. We ensure to support companies to find the right incentive programs that are available at all level of government. That could be applicable to their investment projects. So of course, we have our flagship programs, but we want to make sure that everything that we provide to you are tailored to your needs and what your investment project could look like in Canada. We can also help companies understand the Canadian landscape by providing guidance and advice on how to do business in Canada, and also how to navigate the different government organizations and regulations. And finally, I serve as a connector, which means that I can help with introductions with key contacts in the private sector, in academia, and with the government as well, with any organization that can help you access local investment opportunities, networks, and programs as well. Next slide. In terms of the Canadian advantage, Canada has a lot to offer when it comes to foreign direct investment. We have an exceptional global brand, which includes many things that I will be showcasing in the next few slides. Next slide. Well, first of all, Canada is stable and is a stable and transparent business environment. First of all, we are politically stable. We were ranked #1 out of the G7 in terms of political stability. We also have a sound banking system. Canada has the top 6 safest banks in North America. These same 6 banks were ranked amongst the top 35 and the global top 50 of the world's safest banks. We're a low corruption nation. Canada was actually ranked 2nd in the G7 and 14th globally on the Corruption Perception Index in 2022. And finally, we are committed to clean energy. Canada was ranked 1st in the G7 and 14th globally on the Green Green Future Index of 2023. And just to continue with that, if you can move to the next slide. I just wanted to highlight this aspect. As you can see on this slide here, Canada, this is Canada's energy generation mix. And you can find that Canada's energy mix is 65% renewable with a mixture of hydro, wind, and solar. And multiple provinces across Canada are over 90% renewable energy, which is quite impressive as well, especially when you look at the state of the energy mix for other places around the world. If you can move to the next slide. Canada is also open for business. We are a large country, as you may have seen on the slides before, but we're only a 40 million population, maybe a little bit less than that. However, when a business decides to set up here, Canada provides secure access to the world's 1.5 billion consumers across 51 countries. Through our 15th trade agreements with countries in North America, South America, Europe, and Asia, we're able to cover 60% of the world's GDP just by being in Canada. Next slide. And here I will be talking a bit more about Canada's program, an overview of Canadian programs that could be applicable to you. Of course, those programs are at the federal level and they do not emphasis on all sectors, but I will be able to share some of them that can be sector agnostic as well, and that you could take advantage of as well. Next slide. So here are some flagship federal programs that a company can take advantage of when setting a business in Canada. The first one is innovative. It's related to innovation. So Canada actually promotes one of the richest innovation supports programs in the world through the Scientific Research and Experimental Development Incentive, also known as the SHRED. So any company that is doing R&D work in Canada can take advantage of the SHRED tax credit, which is a combined tax credit from the federal and provincial governments. We also have another program, a really popular program in this case, which is called the Strategic Innovation Fund. This fund is managed by Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and it plays a key role in providing support for innovative projects in Canada. The program aims to support Canadian-based businesses succeed and help them grow help Canada grow for a good job and also to have a strong economy in the future. Some of the key program objectives include encouraging businesses to invest in research and development activities that can lead to technology transfer and commercialization of new products, processes, and services. It can also help accelerate the growth and expansion of innovative businesses in Canada and attract and retaining large-scale investment into Canada. Another important program would be the Global Skills Strategy. As you may already be aware, Canada's immigration system is known internationally as one of the most flexible, with major emphasis on prioritizing skilled talent. And we were able to implement the Global Skills Strategy, where we were able to allow employers to hire highly skilled global talent from anywhere in the world. Although with the pandemic, we've been having some delays with this program, we're getting it closer to the 2-week timeline and to making the application and getting that person coming into Canada to start working. Next slide. And finally here, I just wanted to highlight some of some of the changes that has been made on our budget for 2023. So new programs have been added into our federal incentive programs. A few of them are some investment tax credits for clean energy, clean technology manufacturing, and clean hydrogen. But we've also enhanced support for other programs, such as the Strategic Innovation Fund, where we were able to add added funding to this fund, as well as the Canada Infrastructure Bank, which has an increased mandate to invest in clean power and green infrastructure. Next slide. Well, this is what concludes my presentation for today. Thank you so much for having me. In case you have additional questions about Invest in Canada or about different key sectors that Canada is strong in, I would invite you to follow us in our social media or visit our website. But if you have more specific questions related to your business, please do not hesitate to message me by email or call me by my phone as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Saika. That was a little fireworks going off here. I think there is really just so much to Canada that needs to be highlighted today. I found it encouraging that your Europe team is hiring. So that's if we needed any sign that this relationship is alive and kicking, and that there is more to come, I think that would have been one of those subtle signs that we can see. I also thought it was worth maybe pointing again to your analysis of the access to other markets. Free trade agreements matter for investments. It just shows and points again to the interconnected nature of trade and investment. And there's just very much that goes back and forth, and any sort of mercantilistic export-only focused perspective will always fail to see the actual picture for people on the ground, and that includes both labor and capital. And in that same spirit, I liked many things, of course, but also the skills strategy that you exposed on that slide, which again is itself a trade facilitation measure, in the sense that it facilitates trade in services quite directly, and of course everything else as well. I would suggest perhaps, Saika, that we move on to the provincial level, and of course you will have to leave a little bit earlier, but maybe we can come back to a few things in between, if that is okay. So we would move over to the provincial level and start from east and go to west, starting with Nova Scotia, then Ontario, and Alberta. I would start then by handing over to Chandra Pottle. She is the Senior Investment Attraction Executive at Invest in Nova Scotia, and will show us what is really special about that place. Chandra, you have the floor.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today to learn a little bit about the different regions of our great country. As you've already noticed, it is quite a large country. So I am sitting in Halifax on the east coast of Canada. We are considered Canada's gateway. We have, one of the oldest established settlements or cities in North America. And so in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to just share a little video with you that will highlight a little bit about our culture, our industries, and then I'll take you through a short presentation once that video concludes. So if I could get you to roll the footage, that would be great. Thank you for that. Apologies for the slight glitches, but that is technology in the new world. Hopefully that gave you a sense of, a little bit about what Nova Scotia looks like. So being located on Canada's East Coast, and I'll get you to move to the next slide if you don't mind. We are, here at Invest Nova Scotia, much like Invest Canada, focused on, building Nova Scotia's economy. So we do that through a number of ways. We have teams of people that are focused on finding, fostering, scaling, growing, and attracting companies to our province. But our number one mandate really is providing that service to connect our businesses and businesses that choose to establish here to our communities, to our ecosystems, and to the partners that exist in Nova Scotia. Next slide. So as you can see, we sit very much to the east coast of Canada. We are 4 hours from London in terms of time zone. In terms of flight times, we are 2 hours closer by air than any other Canadian destination. In terms of our seaport capabilities, Halifax is home to Canada's second largest ice-free port. We have, thousands of tons of cargo that come in and out of the Halifax port annually. In terms of locating here and accessing markets within North America, Halifax is very well connected by air to the largest markets in North America. So we have direct flights daily, New York, Boston, Washington, DC, Toronto, Montreal, Chicago. And so from Nova Scotia, you can be very well connected to your corporate offices back in Europe, as well as being very well connected to the economies west of Nova Scotia. And so the time zone difference, you'll notice, from Halifax is exactly 4 hours to San Francisco, 4 hours to London. And so it really positions you well to be able to take advantage of doing business in both Europe and North America in the same business day. In terms of, who is Nova Scotia, what does our population look like? What is our vision for the future? We currently sit at about 1 million people. Halifax is our largest urban area. It's close to 500,000 people. It is the economic hub for Atlantic Canada. Atlantic Canada consists of 4 provinces, being Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick. And we all work very closely together as a region. Over the last number of years, the last 3 years in particular, Nova Scotia has seen a significant growth in population. Just in the last year, we've added over 35,000 people to the province. The years before that were approximately 25,000 people each. This growth is driven by a number of factors. One, our growing economy, our scaling technology industries, as well as our unique immigration programs. So as you heard from my federal government partner, we have some amazing programs at the federal level to attract talent into our country. But in addition to that, Atlantic Canada has an additional immigration program called the Atlantic Immigration Program, and it's focused on identifying businesses within the region that are interested in utilizing immigration as a strategy for growth. And this program allows those companies to become designated. And with that designation, allows them the opportunity to attract talent and offer them a fast track to permanent residency. So it's a different pathway than the Global Skills Talent Stream. And it is unique to our region, but it has been highly successful to businesses, both domestic and foreign, that choose to operate in our region. In addition to that, we have an amazing quality of life. Halifax is consistently ranked as one of the best quality of life cities in the country. We have a very affordable cost of living environment. And a very well-connected community. So I'll just kind of move on from here and share a little bit more with you about kind of what makes up our economy, what are the industries, what's happening here. So starting on the top left, you'll see that we're talking a lot about energy. Energy is a very big priority for Canada in general, and Nova Scotia is really no exception to that. We have a long history in energy storage here and being a leader in innovation around energy storage. And a lot of that is driven through the work that's happening at Dr. Jeff Don's academic research chair that he holds at Dalhousie University, and it's in collaboration with Tesla. So a lot of work around lithium-ion battery storage is happening in Nova Scotia. In addition to that, we are also a leader in Canada in enabling clean hydrogen production. And so Nova Scotia has the great advantage of being located in a place where the winds are very consistent. And so we are a great place in order to generate the electricity to produce that green hydrogen. You may have read that there are MOUs in place with Germany to export that hydrogen in the future and to create a sustainable environment for both Canada and the EU as we look forward to our energy stability. In addition to that, the ICT sector in Nova Scotia has been growing at double-digit growth for the last decade. It makes up 35% of all R&D spent on academic research and development. We have over 27,000 people working directly in ICT companies in the province. In addition to that, we as a government have increased our financial contributions to our 11 universities and 13 colleges to double the enrollment in computer science over the last number of years. So we're very focused on creating the workforce of the future for companies that are looking to grow and expand into Nova Scotia. And as a point of interest, with only 1 million people and 11 universities and 13 colleges, we are considered Canada's education capital in terms of a per capita representation of that number. And over 75% of the population here holds post-secondary credentials. And so we're a highly educated, highly innovative jurisdiction. As we look to shipbuilding, you know, Nova Scotia is surrounded by 7,500 kilometers of coastline. No matter where you live in this province, you're no more than 30 minutes from a beach. And so with that, obviously, is a long history in seafaring and boat building, and that has continued to lead us into the future to be Canada's leader of innovative shipbuilding. Here we are home to Canada's $35 billion project to renew Canada's military fleet of vessels, as well as a whole new suite of ships for Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And so there's a lot that goes into those very large projects. There is lots of opportunity for companies to come and engage in that process, whether you're a cybersecurity company, a systems company, a sensor company. The primes on these projects are always looking for innovative companies to partner and work with. And part of our job is making those connections into these large projects. In terms of defense, Halifax is home to a good chunk of Canada's military assets. We have Canada's largest Navy base here. We have also recently been named the regional headquarters for the Diana project, which is NATO's Defense Innovation Accelerator for North America, for the North Atlantic, pardon me. And so with that will come opportunities for engagement and lots of innovative work to be happening with that project. As we move over to Ocean Tech, again, you're seeing you know, a bit of a thematic flavor here related to the ocean, but we can't deny that it is a massive contributor both to our economy, but also to the global economy. And it's projected to have significant growth into the future. And so Nova Scotia and the surrounding region is home to Canada's ocean supercluster. We are recognized as in the top 10 of ocean innovative economies in the world. With that ocean supercluster comes very significant federal government funding, along with a lot of industry partnerships. And that project is meant to facilitate academic, industry, government collaboration to solve some of the biggest challenges related to the ocean. That can be energy, sustainability, environmental, food, transportation, and logistics. If it touches the ocean, we're working on solving problems around that. As we look at MedTech, Nova Scotia has made a significant contribution into solving healthcare challenges. And we believe that the healthcare challenges we face in Nova Scotia are no different than healthcare challenges that you know, other jurisdictions are facing, both here in Canada and around the world. And so there's been a significant investment by government and academia to bring together, you know, both our brightest minds from industry, from government, and from our academic partners into the Nova Scotia Health Innovation Hub. And what this has been set up to do is to accelerate access both to the system of healthcare, as well as to funding, support initiatives for startups, and, you know, as well as M&Es that are looking to try, test new healthcare solutions. So it's a fast track into doing clinical trials, into doing pilot projects within the medtech space. And that spans everything from vaccinology through to medtech, through to digital health solutions. So those are kind of the priority focuses for our province today. We have accelerators, we have innovation hubs set up for each one of these sectors. And our job here at Invest Nova Scotia is to make sure that companies operating in these sectors have every opportunity to take advantage of the collaboration opportunities, the support, and the incentives. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So just a couple of quick facts and figures. You know, I think I mentioned our universities are, and we've just added a new college campus. So we're now at 14, not 13. 57,000 students are enrolled annually in Nova Scotia. You know, we have a lot of supports. You've heard about some of the federal supports, but on the provincial side, we have a innovation tax credit. We have labor support programs. We have workplace training programs, new graduate hiring programs. We also have significant contributions to MyTax. And for those of you who don't know what MyTax is, it is a federal and provincially funded program in which in Nova Scotia just invested $13 million over the next 4 years. And this is a program that will support paid internships for companies that are looking to attract and retain highly qualified post-secondary talent. And so for EU-based partners, you're able to utilize these programs to be able to come to Canada, to work with our academic institutes, and to have your R&D supported through these funding programs through the province and the federal government. As it relates to innovation ecosystems, as I said, we have hubs spread from one end of the province to the other. These are highly integrated into our communities and our academic institutions, and they're designed to help companies accelerate, scale, and grow. So next slide, please. So here at Nova Scotia, we're here to help you determine if Nova Scotia is right for you and your business. We're very keen to work with companies across any sector and any size to evaluate our company. And some of what we do is that concierge service. So if you're interested, we can help you coordinate a virtual site visit, an in-person site visit, in which we would coordinate a whole agenda of exposing you to our partners, to our ecosystems, to the funding programs, to help you determine if this would be the right choice for your business. We'll also help you obviously build your network once you do choose to settle here. So we have a whole suite of programs around aftercare, everything from helping you connect in with our career fairs, our hackathons, whatever it is that your business might need to be executing in Nova Scotia to scale and grow. Our team is here to basically support you doing that. So with the last slide, I'll bring that up if you don't mind. So thank you. The QR code there has been designed for you to haul out your camera, quickly snap it. It will take you to a website that obviously will dive into a whole lot more detail around what's available in Nova Scotia, you know, more information on our specific sectors, and obviously many, many ways for you to connect with me and with our team. I think this is also being put in the chat. So I really look forward to having the opportunity to speak one-on-one with some of the companies that are here today. And with that, Hans, I think I'll pass it back over to you if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make.
Thank you so much, Chandra, for this quite racy advertisement of Nova Scotia. I personally love the fact that educated was first and then adventurous came right after that in the video. So educated and adventurous, that's my kind of people. I also like very much the question at the end, what would you bring to the table? Because that is really the question that we need to ask. As much as we want to attract investors, there is also something that they should bring. And it's more than money, it's also their spirits, as you have been pointing out as well. So thank you very much for that. Moving west, allow me to introduce Stefano Sanguini. He's the director of Invest Ontario, and will take us to the next province, the next step west. Stefano, you have the floor.
Thank you, Hans, and I'll try to get us a little bit back on schedule here. So as I wait for the screen, perfect, thank you so much. I'm going to take you through a very quick introduction to Ontario. Ontario is kind of the economic heartland of Canada. It is centrally located and it has the largest population of about 15 million people. Next slide. So who is Invest Ontario? We are a rather new agency, actually. We were only created about 2 years ago. And our main goal is to promote, obviously, Ontario as a key destination for both domestic growth and international investment. We are focused on growing strategic investments that really move the needle for Ontario's economy. We work across the board. Europe is obviously one of our key markets, which is why we're here today. And we really think, some of the great successes we've seen from Europe over the last several months and years are really due to the fact that we are so strategically located with the US market. And because we are a manufacturing heartland, it allows companies from Europe to take advantage of both CETA and NAFTA and able to kind of use us as a launch pad or stepping stone into a much larger market. Next slide. What we really do for the province here is offer one window. So all that means is please call us. If you think you are interested in Ontario, you think you're interested in Canada, you can call me and our team can help you find the exact best path into Ontario and Canada, and we can connect with you across all levels of government and all different institutions or organizations, whether it's research institutions, universities, colleges, business and industry associations. We can make introductions, and there is a vast kind of suite of services that we offer. Everything from site selection, we can help you find that location, because of course, if you don't have the right spot for your business, then there's no point. We can help with hiring. We can help make introductions with different job programs that we have here in the province that allow you to hire those employees. And I'm going to talk a lot quickly about the talent that we have here, because that is absolutely one of the key factors for some of our biggest investments that we've recently closed. Next slide. So it's that single point of contact. We are here to be knowledgeable and credible advisors to you. We move at the speed of business. We are an arm's length agency of the government, so we sit outside the government realm, and we are here really to help make sure that businesses are able to make the decisions when they need to be made and keep their programs and projects on time and on track. And then, of course, we have several different incentive programs available when appropriate. But I think one of my big jobs is to really convince you that there is a lot of reasons to invest in Ontario before we even talk about incentives. We are lower cost labor compared to much of the US. We have clean energy. We are kind of, the one thing we always tell our our European colleagues is we are kind of like European Americans. Ontario and Canada, we have universal health care. We have the same quality of life and the same standard of living as Europe, but we have that access to the US market. So I think that's a lot of what we find Europeans find attractive about Ontario is you can come here, have that same quality of life for your employees if there are any key executives coming from Europe, have that same expectation of a safe environment, a very safe place to raise families and to grow your business, but have that access to the market. Next slide. Ontario is big. So this is one thing I want to emphasize, and I know we spoke about it a little bit from Saika's slide. Ontario and Canada, this is an overlay of Canada over Europe. Ontario itself, you can start all the way down in Sicily, and if you went all the way to the tip of Ontario, you would be in Paris. And so the one thing I would really encourage potential investors is make sure you kind of allocate the right amount of time when you're coming to research and invest. We often have clients come in and say, we're gonna go see a site in Toronto, and then we're gonna go to Thunder Bay that afternoon. And we have to say, well, you might need a day or two in between because it is a very large place. But with that comes a lot of benefits. Next slide. So we have three priority sectors in Invest Ontario. One thing I will say about Ontario itself is we cover every sector that you can imagine, and that cross-pollination between sectors is what really gives us a lot of strength in Ontario. What we see is everything from AI research that goes into advanced manufacturing, machine learning, that crosses over into life sciences, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology, and into the actual technology sector, whether that's telecommunications, semiconductor research, or anything in between. We have a real cross of sectors here, and that actually gives us a lot of strength. Next slide. So why Ontario for manufacturing? Well, we'll start off here. Ontario is, as I said, Canada's manufacturing powerhouse. We are the second largest vehicle producing jurisdiction in all of North America. So we produce as many cars every year as Michigan does in the US. The Ford GT, pride of Michigan supercar, is actually handmade and manufactured in Ontario. It's that quality of labor, that quality of product that we can turn out here that really attracts automotive companies in particular, but all companies across the board. We are home to 5 auto OEMs, so Ford, GM, Toyota, Honda, Stellantis, and Tesla has a very large presence here in Mississauga with their Tesla Toronto automation. So for those of you that don't know, Tesla actually manufactures the machines that build their batteries for all their gigafactories globally are actually designed, engineered, and manufactured here just north of Toronto. We are also have 9 of the world's top global chemical firms. And chemical manufacturing, is obviously very important to manufacturing in general. But the one thing that for us is very important is the sustainability nature of chemical manufacturing. There are chemical jurisdictions in the world that do manufacturing in the chemistry space that do it, in different parts of the world, but it could be a very hazardous process. We really pride ourselves in being a global leader in sustainable chemical manufacturing that is environmentally friendly and safe for those who work there and, of course, the communities around them. And we have 35 years of experience in sustainable chemical manufacturing. One thing that people often don't know about Ontario is our aerospace capacity. Aerospace and defense is a huge part of our economy here. People often think Quebec for aerospace, Ontario for automotive, but we have over 200 aerospace firms, Airbus, Safran, Pratt & Whitney, all having major locations in Ontario. And 3 of the world's top landing gear manufacturers manufacture in Ontario. So the chances are, if you flew anywhere in the world today on a Boeing, Airbus, any of those major aircraft, chances are you were taking off and landing on gear that was made in Ontario. And the final thing I will leave here for advanced manufacturing is that we also have a huge clean tech sector. For us, again, the transition to EVs or the transition to hydrogen or the transition to a carbon-free economy, this is very important. So yes, we do our manufacturing powerhouse, but how do we do so in a way that's very sustainable and very environmentally friendly going forward, with the ultimate goal of course, leaving the world a better place for the next generation. So our clean tech sector comprises of about 5,000 companies, and it is the largest clean tech sector in Canada. Next slide. Clean energy. The reason I want to spend just 1 second here is the last few big investments that we have closed, especially from Europe, have been because of our clean energy mix. 90% of our electricity comes from emissions-free sources, with a large base load of nuclear and about 25% hydro. But the reason this mix is very important to us and very more important to our manufacturing sector is that it gives us the capability of reliability and redundancy that is so important to a lot of these advanced manufacturing processes that operate 24/7, 365, that cannot have an outage at all, ever. And so we are able to offer one of the most clean and reliable grids in all of North America for this reason. And so Umicore from Belgium recently announced a large investment in Ontario, one of the key reasons being our energy mix. Next slide. So speaking of Umicore, one case study, and again, why did Umicore choose Ontario? Well, we had the right site, so it speaks to that site selection capability that we were able to offer companies that was already zoned, serviced, and ready to go. It had all the studies done. It had the right access to labor and the talent that they needed. Had the connection for the reliable and redundant electricity connection. And there was a very strong proposition from both the community and from all 3 levels of government working together. And that aspect is very, very important. The ability to work together across all levels of government is so important to investors these days, and is something that more and more is becoming a challenge in the US. The other big investment that we've recently closed, I'm sure you've heard of, is the $7 billion investment by Volkswagen to set up their first North American gigafactory for battery manufacturing in Ontario. That story started, a year and a half ago. And it's funny because the way it all started was we were sitting in a boardroom in Toronto, and I was sitting with minister at the federal level, minister at the provincial level, who are two different parties in the political spectrum of Canada. And they sat down together and pitched the Volkswagen board, and they were able to talk together collaboratively. And when they left the room, they shook each other's hands, and there was a recent political election coming up, and they congratulated each other, and they said best of luck. And a lot of the board members who were actually from Europe, and half were from the US, their jaws kind of dropped a little bit. They couldn't understand how these people from opposing political parties were working so well together, especially the Americans in the room. They weren't used to it. And that collaboration was so important. And fast forward 10 months, 3 levels of government working hand in hand every single day for 10 months. And we got the announcement for Volkswagen. And that's how we get these strong, these big investments. And it is so important. And you just do not see it in the US these days with the polarized politics that unfortunately are kind of gripping our colleagues to the south. Next slide. I'm going to pivot quickly to information technology sector. 70% of our working age adults have a post-secondary degree, and that's higher than any other OECD country. Toronto is the fastest tech market in North America. It is growing faster than most places, including the Silicon Valley these days. Next slide. So we have what we call our information highway or information corridor. It comprises of about 35,000 tech companies and 400,000 tech workers. And really what you see, and you're going to hear from my colleague in Invest Ottawa from the municipal level, this kind of corridor, and this is where the majority of the population in Ontario lives, but between Windsor, Ottawa, Toronto, Waterloo is really one of our most high-tech clusters in North America, second only to really the Valley. Most of the big major schools like Stanford and MIT actually recruit out of Ottawa and out of Waterloo because of the talent that we have. Next slide. And the reason why all these companies are here is for those factors that I just discussed. So everyone from Google to Intel to Apple to Amazon, Samsung, they all have major operations here. Next slide. So another case study, just a few months ago, actually, we announced a big deal with Nokia, which was going to invest in a brand new world-leading ICT cybersecurity R&D hub in Ottawa. Again, why did they choose Ottawa? Because of the value proposition that exists, support from the community, the talent, and the main drawing factor was the talent that they were able to draw. That is why they chose to expand and to build out this world-leading hub. Next slide. So I'm going to pivot to life sciences now. So life sciences is an interesting one. Sorry, before I pivot to life sciences, STEM. So again, just to wrap up, we have a huge, again, it's that talent factor. So 81,000 tech professionals, fastest growing market in North America. But the real thing here I just want to focus on is the growth that's coming from our young people. So we turn out, just in Ontario, every year, 65,000 science, technology, and engineering students. That's just Ontario. And the other really interesting fact here is almost half of those, it's a 50-50 split between female and male. And it's typically a very male-dominated sector in the past. To see that pivot is really fascinating and amazing. And then, of course, there's the welcoming of international students. And then there's the whole immigration factor that everyone has already spoken about, including CETA and my colleague from Nova Scotia, so I won't focus on it too much. But about 50% of all immigrants to Canada every year land in Ontario. And again, we can get most fast-track most immigration programs for key projects. Next slide. And next slide. So life sciences. 10 of the world's top pharmaceutical companies are in Ontario. We have about 19,000 life science firms employing 68,000 people. And we have 23 academic research hospitals. So this, especially life sciences and the tech kind of overlap or cross pollination that I spoke about earlier, especially between these two sectors, it's a reason why we've been very successful in life sciences in particular. It is just a huge market for us, and of obviously a one that is very important. Next slide. For those of you who don't know, just historically, Ontario has been home to so many innovations that you probably wouldn't even think about. Everything from the discovery of insulin, the first electric wheelchair, stem cell discovery, the first cancer stem cell discovery, discovery of the pain gene in 2001, and straight through all the way to different methods of treating different diseases. Next slide. We have world-class strengths in oncology, cardiology, neuroscience, stem cell research, point of care, and of course, diagnostics. Next slide. And I think, the key thing for us especially is it translates into more and more investments. And that's, for us, that's the key thing. Just last month, AstraZeneca announced a huge investment of a new R&D hub in Mississauga, Ontario, just outside of Toronto, 500 brand new research and scientific jobs. And this would focus on a number of studies in breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, kidney disease, COVID-19 research. And in addition to that, it was going to see the creation of a new rare disease development hub, which of course, again, the goal, regardless of sector, is how do we leave the world a better place for the next generation? And this is just an example of that. And last slide, I know CETA actually had a very similar slide on, the different free trade agreements. But at the end of the day, the one thing I want to leave you with is you can use Ontario and Canada as a stepping stone into North America. You have access to a very European-friendly, European-like market, whether it's maternal leave, pat leave, European universal healthcare equivalent, a very immigration-friendly system where you do not have to worry about a lottery system like in the US, and am I going to be able to renew my staff, or I'm going to have to send them back home, et cetera, and just a very safe and great quality of life that you can use and come to Ontario. And so I'll leave it there and help my friend Hans to get back on time. Hopefully I was able to do that, Hans.
Thank you so much, Stefano. That I like that last slide as well, just to remind us of the enormous spread that is available in terms of coverage. Today we're celebrating CETA, which I think is an absolute central cornerstone of that. But of course, the world is big, and that is also in the interest of this wonderful partnership to focus on all the agreements that are being negotiated, not to be forgotten. And I'm saying this because I know that Canada and Europe are sharing quite a globalist outlook on this. Let me hand over very quickly now to Julia. Julia Marcinkovsky is the regional manager for investment attraction of Invest in Alberta. Julia, you have the floor.
Hi. That's great. I feel like the pressure is on. Stefano said he's going to try to get us on track. And I don't know if I can manage in 10 minutes. But much like a lot of that has been said about healthcare and immigration and access through the various trade agreements, those things all apply. So I'll skip through them. I'll do my best. So I look forward to sharing some of the highlights and opportunities in Alberta. And let's kick it off. If I can just get to next slide. Thank you. We have been created just about 2 years ago as a government, independent government agency, and our role, just as Invest in Ontario and our colleagues in Nova Scotia, is to be that concierge and provide that service to the investors. And every investor journey is different. So this gives you an idea of the path that we take to help investors find success and make an impact here. Our unique concierge services bring all partners to the table. We are very collaborative. We work with our government institutions, post-secondaries, regulatory and local economic development agencies, as we understand that those are all critical part of investor journey. And as our investors like to tell us, they are always very pleasantly surprised at how quickly and easily it is to access our, whether it's government agencies or those regulatory bodies. And Alberta has that make it happen attitude. And we like to say that our team embodies the spirit in the work that we do. And just like our investors, we're focused on cost, speed, and ease. If I could just get to next slide. Thank you. Since our work includes promoting Alberta around the world, we are located exactly where those international key markets are in Asia, Europe, and the US. So our team members in London, Amsterdam, Berlin, Munich, in Europe are there to assist you. And if you're not in one of those markets, that's okay. I believe they travel quickly. As it was pointed out, Alberta is a big place, but in Europe, it's a lot easier to navigate. If I can just get to next slide. I'm going to try to show you a little bit on this map where we're located. Alberta is a very big province, but we are connected to major markets. Some of the advantages that we have, of course, is a road highway infrastructure that connects into the greater North American market, as well as our intermodal transportation, giving you access to west. Say if your market is in Asia or you plan to be in Asia, we're connected through Port of Vancouver and Port of Prince Rupert. They are Canada's two of Canada's largest ports, as well as our trade corridors that allow you to access the US as well as Mexico. And we like to believe that this is a substantial number, 50 million people accessible by ground transportation in 24 hours. It's pretty impressive. We have 2 border crossings that would allow for that speed. Another interesting fact about Alberta, we're quite big and we're only just a little over 4.5 million people, but we are growing fast. We are also growing our businesses fast and we're preparing for that. So you have over 3 million square feet of industrial space that's being under construction in both Calgary and Edmonton, which are 2 major regions. And that's a really an interesting, I find, fact, because a lot of the companies that come in now, investors that are coming into our province, are telling us that they prefer to get their land faster. So it's already zoned and ready to go for them. We're also connected through 2 of our major international airports. We have direct flights to 88 cities worldwide and Calgary. That includes Paris, Rome, and others in Europe. And Edmonton International Airport is the second largest. It's actually Canada's largest airport by area and is home to specialized cargo cluster development, as well as the only Canadian airport with the certification in pharmaceutical logistics. If I could just get to the next slide. Thank you. So we are a rapidly growing province and we have highly educated, diverse workforce, stable economy, and low corporate taxes. One of the things that we like to tell our investors are, if you're here, if you would like to move to a jurisdiction for good, for long term, we're definitely the location for you. We have lowest corporate tax, no sales tax, no capital tax, payroll, you name it, 23%. We're the lowest in Canada. We like to say that, but other things we believe are more impactful for business. It's the speed of doing that business. Our government is very committed to doing so. They created a Ministry of Red Tape Reduction just to make that happen. And that also allows a lot of the companies go through their permitting processes faster and access the right type of services. As most of our municipalities, local municipalities, they are focused on this one-stop shop. So they'll assign an agent for you, and that agent will guide the company through the process, whether it's the permits, right people to talk to, whether it's utilities, they will connect you to that point of contact. And we're, of course, very affordable, whether it's the cost for real estate, commercial real estate, or electricity or natural gas, and of course collaborative. So our businesses actually drive innovation, and they suggest policy changes, and our government listens to that. You can see that. I'll just ask to go to the next slide. One of the biggest things that we like to talk about is the talent. Much like other provinces in Canada, we are growing, but we're growing really fast. We're able to attract that talent, train, and retain it. And those are some of the things that we believe are unique value propositions of our province, because it is really quite affordable to live in Alberta. You can own a home, you can enjoy a nice vacation, you can enjoy a quality of life that you would any other place in Europe. You can hike, you can bike. Really, you can make any of that lifestyle happen here because you can also afford it. We also have the opportunity to collaborate with our post-secondary institutions. So we have 26 universities and colleges in Alberta, and not only are they focused on growing the talent, they're also there to support businesses that are coming in and they're looking to either solve a problem or also support that growing or changing workforce. Our government just recently announced changes and additions to funding that is available for companies to take advantage of, to retrain their talent and try to fill those gaps. If I could get to the next slide, please. Thank you. I will focus on mostly two sectors just to try to save time. And as we see opportunity coming into our province from the European, the European market, of course, we have other sectors that are thriving here, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about energy diversity here, as well as a little bit about our agriculture capacity. So of course, we have a very, very diverse energy mix, and Saika, my colleague at Invest in Canada, she had a really great map to see what type of energy mixes we have in this province, and that really tells you how open we are in adopting all of those new technologies and that try to support us in our decarbonization efforts. Alberta has been experiencing growth in hydrogen economy transition, and of course there's an advantage for companies to offer those solutions that accelerate the transition further. It's been projected 40 billion in investment by 2030, and that in Alberta, and that is enabled by our capacity in carbon capture and utilization. Alberta currently supplies 60% of Canada's hydrogen, which is quite substantial, and we're going to be contributing to that value chain even more. We've been producing hydrogen for 60 years. We know how to do it. Our industry knows how to do it. We have post-secondary institutions that have been supporting that. Part of the capacity in our carbon capture utilization in Alberta, of course, is our geology, very unique geology. And that allows us, we have 3 out of 5 biggest CCUS plants in the world. And that's going to help, we believe, our industry that is really difficult to decarbonize to get to that carbon neutrality that everyone's striving for and Alberta is committed to. If I could just get to the next slide, I wanted to show you a little bit about our renewable capacity, and that is really unique in our unique power market. Alberta is actually a leading jurisdiction for renewable investment. It is projected that 80% of the renewable investment will happen in Alberta over the next 5 years. And to date, 2021, it's been over 2 billion invested in the growth. And the government of Alberta is actively pursuing the legislative changes to make that happen. So we're working towards modernizing our grid and then also allowing a limited self-supply. One of the unique opportunities that the companies can take advantage is, of course, our market, our competitive deregulated energy market that will allow companies to negotiate those long-term power purchase agreements. And we have virtual power purchase agreements. So the companies can decide how much, what kind of energy mix they would like, and they can negotiate with companies on that, which is quite substantial. And all of this has been driven by this clean tech investment. One of our the godfathers of machine learning, Richard Sutton, is quite famous out of University of Alberta. He said he believed that ideas matter, and it's not just about the technology, it's about the people. And it's really an Alberta spirit, very entrepreneurial. People drive the change, people solve the problems. Our energy sector, which is very famous in the world, it has been actually the starting point of our technology tech innovation. 75% of this clean tech spending is contributed to from Alberta. So that's about 1.4 billion annually. We would like to really highlight that because we believe that as a jurisdiction that has such strong oil gas experience and capacity, we are contributing so much to that clean tech spending. The technology that's coming out of that is amazing, and it's helping us to decarbonize. You know, we're tackling the nuclear technology SMR. Alberta has signed an MOU with our friends in Ontario, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, and we're exploring that advanced nuclear technology and trying to decarbonize our sectors faster. If I can just get to the next slide, please. Thank you. And one of the other, I believe, is a great sectors to talk about in Alberta is agriculture and the capacity that we have. Of course, we have the, we're exporting an incredible amount of our raw materials, but we're also processing a lot. And we believe that seeing the growth over the last decade, that's an opportunity for European companies to come and enjoy that. You have access to premium quality, carbon neutral crops. And that means you can take your product, you can take your product to your US or North American market, having those high quality inputs, whether it's pulses such as canola or such as peas or chickpeas, or it's pasta or whatever that may be. We have those high quality crops to be your inputs. Of course, our farmers are working every day on trying to make that crop carbon neutral, more sustainable, using less water, using less fertilizers. Of course, the technology that is coming out of this province is substantial, but we also see that as an opportunity. So if you're the kind of company that's looking to build that, we know that there's a huge focus in Canada, and we will continue to work on that. Alberta, as I said, because we're one of the major producers of alternative protein inputs, we believe this is a great opportunity for those European companies to come and enjoy really that untapped territory right now in the processing, on the processing side. And on sustainability, of course, we have invested millions into growing sustainable food, offsetting a lot of our emissions in the in our agriculture sector, and as well as some of the things that I wanted to mention is, you know, the cattle industry, and Alberta is a substantial contributor to that, greatly on the to the overall Canadian exports, but that's an opportunity for companies to possibly come in and enjoy that. And we are aligned with those UN sustainability goals. I will, running out of time, I'm going to skip to the last, to the 10th slide, and just touch really briefly on the opportunities. So there are other opportunities in aerospace, advanced manufacturing that Alberta poses for European companies. But one of the really big ones that we started working on as a province is, of course, the critical minerals. Our strategy that as like the action plan that laid out the groundwork to support that mineral sector development. But some of the inputs that have been now discovered, and we're working on we're trying to develop that framework. How can we support the battery industry, because we have that rich supply of critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, and graphite. So those are some of the things that I just wanted to leave as a takeaways. You know, we're trying to tackle the world challenges, whether it's the affordable clean energy or, you know, sustainable food supply, equitable growth. Alberta is there for business, and it likes to do things fast. If you have any interest, reach out to, whether it's me here, I'm located in Edmonton. We have a team in Europe. I believe two of my colleagues, Sebastian and Natia, are also here as well. And we're happy to support you. You can go to the last slide, but it's my closing slide. And I'm going to ask, maybe I'm going to share a video later in the chat, just to give you a little bit of a visual overview of our province. Thank you, Hannes. I didn't quite make it. I was in the 13.5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Julia. At least getting close, and the foretaste of another racy video is certainly welcome, even though we don't have too much time for it now, but people have a life after this webinar, I hope. And that's when you will get those sound and optical bites, and surely enjoy them. I will bite my tongue and not refer to what my favorite spots in your presentation, and rather hand over to Jens Michael Schaal. He's the Vice President for Global Expansion of Invest in Ottawa. So we're switching now to the cities. It was nice to hear from you about agri-tech and agri-food and also innovative proteins. But I think now we're going to some more urban flavors. So Jens Michael, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Hannes, and good afternoon to you in Europe. Thank you for really giving me the opportunity to be part of that panel. Similar to my predecessors, I think I'll try to catch up a little bit on time. I will just simply skip a few slides of my presentation because I'm a really big fan of discussion. So I hope that we have enough time for that. My colleague and friend from the province of Ontario, Stefano Sanguini, did a great job in talking on a very macro level about Ontario, providing a couple of case studies, one of them here from Ottawa. So I'll probably be really looking at the pieces that he hasn't already talked about. Yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. Let's do a quick geography refresh for as far as Ottawa goes. We are located between Canada's two largest cities, Toronto and Montreal. You reach Montreal in a roughly two hour drive. You fly to Toronto in less than an hour, so you can do your daily meetings in either one of those cities and are back for dinner here in Ottawa. You reach the US border in about 60-70 minutes car drive, depending whether you took Autobahn standards from Germany. It might be even a bit faster. The piece that's interesting, you reach pretty much more than 50% of North America's population within a 2-hour flight. So Ottawa is strategically well located. We're 6-hour difference to Central Europe. Next slide. I will quickly skip that, but I don't want to completely ignore it because I think this will be a shock to some of my Canadian friends here on the call as well. When you look at the Ottawa footprint, you can actually fit Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary into our municipal footprint and still have space. So this is an interesting piece, which also provides us different opportunities here in the city of Ottawa. It's a result of an amalgamation of 11 cities that took place 2001. Next slide. National Capital Region in Canada is home to around 1.4 million people. 1 million of those folks, including myself, live here on the Ottawa, Ontario side. The other 400,000 live on the Quebec side. So we're really on the edge of or right between or on the border of two provinces, Ontario and Quebec, which also provides us with a bilingual workforce. So you have folks living in Quebec, working in Ontario, living in Ontario, working in Quebec, and we also tackle opportunities for investment as a region as and when the opportunity presents itself. And next slide. If you take nothing away from my presentation today, I would ask you to take away those 4 points here. Starting with the first, Ottawa has the highest concentration of tech talent in its labor force in North America, even more than Silicon Valley. When you take a step back, that's quite a statement. And of course, that's not something that we make up. It's a study that comes out every year by commercial real estate players, CBRE. They publish a report called Scoring Tech Talent. They compare 50 major centers in North America, including New York, Boston, Silicon Valley, and many other places. And for 3 years in a row, Ottawa has a #1 spot for the concentration of tech talent. What that really means is Ottawa is all about R&D and about research intensive and technology intensive operations. So there are two major areas in our city. One, of course, is government. We have roughly 110,000 federal government workers in our city. And then we have anywhere between 75 and 80,000 technology workers in our city. So government is not something we are actively involved in growing, but we're actively involved in growing our tech ecosystem because my organization here Invest Ottawa is exclusively focused on supporting and growing knowledge-based industries. Next slide. Stefano talked about education and this Ontario access to talent. There are in general three sources of talent. One, of course, are our own universities and colleges. You see on the slide where we stand on this. Second one is immigration. Third is reskilling. I'm happy to say that Invest Ottawa is actively involved on the immigration file and the reskilling file, and I can talk about this towards the end of my presentation. Next slide, please. Right, those are our key sectors that we are pursuing proactively, if you will. And again, when you look at those companies, all of them exclusively are having R&D operations here in the city. When you focus on the 4 European Union-based companies here on the slide, Siemens, Nokia, Ericsson, and Thales from France, all of those companies have announced major expansions and investments, some very recently, just a couple of weeks ago, some up to max 2 years ago. So Siemens Healthineers, for example, announced 2 years ago an expansion of their manufacturing capacity here for their handheld blood gas analyzer. So this medical device has been designed, developed, manufactured, and shipped here from Ottawa to the rest of the world. It's a device that is, for example, used by paramedics around the world. Nokia and Stefano talked about this, recently announced a $340 million investment to increase their R&D campus here in Ottawa, bringing the workforce to a total of around 2,200. The 4 companies I just actually mentioned, between the 4 of them have around 5,500 people here in Ottawa. So most of them focused on R&D operations. Ericsson recently announced a $470 million R&D partnership with the government of Canada. Ericsson's footprint here in Ottawa is already the largest that they have in North America. So this investment will see this footprint even grow further. Thales doubled their headcount in 2019 when they acquired a Ottawa-based cybersecurity firm called Gemalto, and really brought Thales to the forefront of the cybersecurity players here in Ottawa and in Canada more broadly. One company that is not yet here on the list because there is limited space, but recently entered Ottawa from Germany is Infineon. Infineon just, I believe, 2 weeks ago announced the acquisition of Ottawa-based GaN Systems for around $900 million. GaN Systems is a specialty semiconductor player working in compound semiconductors, which are critical for the supply chain in electric vehicles. So Infineon is another recent investor in our region. Just to give you an idea of who from Europe is active here, there are many more. Again, this is just to sort of give you a flavor. Next slide. I'll not talk about all of these sort of disruptive tech areas we're working in. I'll probably just pick autonomous vehicles because this is an area we are very active in also as an organization. BlackBerry QNX is known perhaps to many of you, and if you don't know it, I can tell you that roughly 50% of vehicles that are on the road today use technology and operating systems that are developed by BlackBerry QNX. QNX is headquartered here in Ottawa and develops and tests their technology solutions here. Another major player that recently joined our Ottawa ecosystem is Ford, who are basically doing everything around their infotainment systems for their fleet here out of Ottawa. They employ a couple of hundred people here as well. Next slide. And next slide. Perfect. Just quickly about who we are as an organization, Invest Ottawa. We are really an end-to-end service provider in the economic development space, covering the entire value chain of business from small businesses, Main Street businesses, and early stage companies. Those are taken care of by our venture development team. We have an accelerator program that is co-located within our building, housing roughly 40 to 50 technology-based companies. We have a talent acquisition team that goes out into the world and attracts talent from across the globe. We have been very active in France and North Africa to bring especially Francophone talent to Ottawa, because one of the stated goals of the federal government of Canada is to increase the proportion of Francophones here in Canada, moving to place outside of Quebec, which is very, very Francophone. So we are taking advantage of these easy access opportunities for talent to support the workforce development here in our city. Global expansion is the team that I'm running, Talent 2, but global expansion is focusing on foreign direct investment attraction. We also work with existing companies, because we understand we don't only want to bring in new companies, we want to help companies grow, and we want to see them succeed. So we have a designated team of sector leads and experts that speak the language of the industries that they represent, to provide on the ground support. Next slide. My team, that's basically the service that my team, in a bit more detail, the service that my team provides. It's really around individual service to our clients. That goes from visitation programs, connecting clients to our network of partners, be it on the legal side, be it on the taxation side, immigration. We can support on real estate space in terms of site selection. We also can offer companies access to our soft landing program, which is called Global Runways. So companies can take advantage of our own office space and can co-locate with us for up to a year or sometimes longer if they like it a lot and want to be really connected also with our startup community. They are welcome to stay as well. An important aspect of our work is also to publicize the arrival of a new entrant into our market, because again, this is for us is important because we want to make sure that the ecosystem knows, that the province knows. And so we work often with clients on announcements with their PR and marketing teams to do press releases. We get our mayor out to do some opening ceremonies and ribbon cutting, because again, we want to make sure that companies that come to our city receive the full support that they can get and should expect from us. And success in the past, I guess, has proven that we're on the good track with that approach. Next slide. This is shifting gears here now, because it's a different initiative I'm involved in. I also happen to be a member of the board and member of the executive committee of the Consider Canada City Alliance. The CCCA, as it's called, unites Canada's 14 largest economic regions in the country to jointly promote and support foreign direct investment into the country. So we do that, of course, a little bit through advocacy to our provincial and federal governments, but we also do that really hands-on by going abroad as a group and attend events and sort of promote Canada as a whole. For us, of course, growth is good for Canada, no matter where this growth occurs. So, of course, I mean, in an ideal world, I want to see everyone come to Ottawa, but our major competitor, and of course that's not a surprise, is the United States. So if I can help Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, or Halifax to land an investment that would otherwise go to Michigan, we're all in, and we do this as a team, and it's a fantastic initiative. We recently have been jointly as a group to Hanover Messe in Germany, did a little bit of this roadshow with the help of our federal partners at Invest in Canada and Global Affairs Canada, and it's an initiative I'm really excited about. And I guess that brings me to my last slide. That's the end. So if you have any questions around Ottawa, please check our website, whyottawa.ca. So you find everything that you need to know about us. You find opportunities to get in touch with my team. If you want to touch base with me, email address is here and phone number as well. Looking forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jens and Michael, for this further racy presentation that really makes one doesn't know where to go in Canada because it's also attractive. I think that's really fantastic. I want to hand over to Philippe Valentine, Director of Business Development Europe at Montreal International. You already set the stage by talking about French quite a bit, Jens Michael. And I want to stress that since we are coming today and in this project and in this event from a perspective of also celebrating the CETA agreement, I should stress before he does that Philippe Valentine is one of the people who were engaged in negotiating that agreement. And that gives me double pleasure to hand over to him as the last scheduled speaker. I should do that I should not do that without stressing that you can still ask questions or make comments in the chat. We won't have excessive time, but maybe we do have time for one or two of your questions. So please feel free to fire them off. Philippe, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Hannes. I won't do the presentation in French, I reassure you, but it's a pleasure to be with you all today. However, you know, I've noticed a few names in the audience, so people that I know. So bonjour à tous mes contacts francophones. Ciao a tutti che parlano italiano, è un piacere essere con voi oggi y buenas tardes a todos los hispanohablantes que están con nosotros. It's a real pleasure for me to speak with you about Montreal and what Montreal has to offer, especially from a European perspective. So basically on the first slide, I'd like to introduce a little bit what Montreal International is. So Montreal International is a bit of a hybrid structure. We're not exactly a governmental agency, we're a public-private partnership. So basically what that means, we get roughly 80% of our money from the 3 levels of government. So I don't represent the municipal area itself. I do represent as well the federal and provincial governments within the organization. We cover 82 municipalities, which is the Greater Montreal area, the 2nd largest metropolitan area in Canada, 4.5 million people, as you'll see on the next slide. And we have as well a very important contribution from the private sector here in Montreal. So more or less 200 private companies chip in to support our efforts into attracting foreign direct investment in the Greater Montreal area. So on the next slide, I'll bring a little bit what Montreal, looks like. So basically, Montreal, as I said, is a metropolitan area of roughly 4.5 million people. We've had the fastest economic growth in the country over the past few years. As an organization, Montreal International has been contributing significantly to that. We've attracted roughly more than $3 billion for 3 years in a row in Montreal. Last year was close to $3.6 billion for indirect investment, mostly in the technologies, but also in manufacturing, food industry, food processing, and so on. What's also very interesting about Montreal, it's the location. We're 40 minutes away from the American border, right in the middle of that huge market, which is the northeastern part of North America. So very close to New York City, to Boston, to Washington, to Toronto, and other peripheral markets such as Atlantic Canada and the Midwest of the United States. Basically, what I want to discuss now is the proximity, the cultural proximity between Canada and the EU, but especially from a Montreal perspective. So on the next slide, you will see some figures, which I've always found very interesting. I studied languages. Obviously, to me, this is an important topic to address. So Montreal is very European when it comes to languages. Most of the population speaks both French and English, and about roughly 1 out of 5 Montrealers speak at least 3 languages. And basically, we've truly found this way of connecting with the world, not only from a trade and business perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. And I think from a European perspective, this is very important since you're yourself, very involved with multiple cultures all around you. So basically, beyond this linguistic similarity that we share and that we have in common, what also makes Montreal a more European place versus any other city in North America is the social environment that we have in the city. So the quality of life is very similar to that of Europe. The costs of living are the lowest, which you can find amongst the 20 largest metropolitan areas in North America. The real estate is still affordable. You hear all those stories about the Canadian market. We don't have the same issues in Montreal. So basically, it's a city where it's still possible to live well, to have a good job, and to have a thriving career. It's been mentioned already, but I want to put emphasis on this as well, because very often Europeans tend to see North America as this huge market, which is very similar. Keep in mind that in Canada, especially in the province of Quebec, we have social services which are on par with those that you have in Europe. And that is very important, especially if you plan on sending a few employees to Canada. They will find an environment, a social environment, way closer to what they already have in Europe. That's, by the way, one of the facilitators that the CETA agreement brought on the table between Canada and the EU, the ease to transfer employees. So through either intra-company transfers or a few other options which are available to you. But keep in mind that for North American operations, it's actually simpler for you to kickstart those operations out of Canada versus the United States. Now diving in a little bit deeper into what Montreal has to offer as an ecosystem. So Montreal is the largest hub in the aerospace industry, as seen as on the next slide. Noemi, thank you. So basically Montreal is the largest hub in the aerospace industry, one of top 3 centers in the world. We're head of the Airbus C-Series program, as well. Bombardier is headquartered here in Montreal. And we have a lot of tier 1 operators and manufacturers in the region. So obviously the trade agreement that we have has facilitated significantly the trade of aerospace, aircrafts and satellite components. So basically this is probably one of the main niche markets which can benefit from the agreement that we have. Same for life sciences. There's some agreements between the EU and Canada to facilitate the recognition of patents, including in the life sciences industry. So basically, if you're in that field, keep in mind that it's actually easier for you to do business in Canada. Montreal is a very large hub for biotech, for medical devices, for research as well. There's a lot of research done with the universities here in the region, which are some of the most advanced in the world in those fields. I could keep on talking about, numerous industries. Montreal is at the forefront of AI. The founder of the deep learning discipline is based here in Montreal. Yoshua Benjo, he's basically a global figure in that industry. We're really strong as well in video games, in software developments, and so on. But keep in mind that these industries have not been that affected by the CETA agreement. However, on the next slide, you'll find out a few programs that have been implemented to support the development of clean technologies in Canada. And that is one of the main industries where there's synergies to be created thanks to the agreements that we have between our countries. As a matter of fact, most of the clean tech contracts or programs are usually managed by the governments. And the CETA agreement has basically opened up those markets, so those public tenders to European companies. So there are numerous opportunities for European companies to tap into the Canadian market, either at the municipal level, at the provincial level, and also the federal level. So basically keep in mind that you would not have the same access to the United States, but you do have that access in Canada. So beyond the recent headlines from the federal government's budget, which is going to grant billions and billions of dollars into funding to decarbonize the economy in general, the provincial government in Quebec is also keen on supporting transition towards electric mobility and so on. I want to underline that Quebec's energy is basically 100% clean, from which 99% is hydropower. So we have probably the cleanest energy in the world when it comes to the global network. And of course, if you do set up in the province, it's actually going to be very good for your carbon footprint. Hydro-Quebec, which is the main public utility in the industry, is also keen on investing massively over the next few years in further developing the energy potential of Quebec. And those public contracts are actually partially opened to European companies. So again, another huge opportunity for companies from your side of the ocean. The same at the municipal level. The city of Montreal has been at the forefront of the climate change fight. We've won numerous prizes over the past few years when it comes to our strategy to become more green and more energy efficient. And the city has one of the most ambitious targets in the world when it comes to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. Last slide, but not least, Quebec has the most generous incentives in Canada, especially when it comes to any project targeting R&D. We have what is called a refundable tax credit, which can be added to the federal incentive of 14% cashback on any expenditures done in R&D, which is the most generous in Canada by far for foreign-controlled companies. We have the same kind of incentives for video games, for software development, and so on, as well as financial support for manufacturing facilities, as well for training of employees, and so on. So basically, keep in mind that there are numerous opportunities and many incentives which we can help you navigate at the 3 levels of government. So last but not least, my contact info, reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always available to connect and to plan meetings. As my colleagues, I can probably speak for 5 hours about Montreal. We're really, really strong in many industries, and I'd be very happy to obviously provide more details on those, on all the industries which you're doing business in. I hope I stayed within the time frame.
Philippe, fabulous. You got us almost back on track because we do have to conclude in about 10 minutes. I have not seen a question in the chat. I think what that means is that people are just blown away by the opportunities and now have to go back and quickly rekindle their investment plans and target Canada even more than they were already planning to do that. I would like to then perhaps just move directly to a brief, well, how should I call it? Certainly not a summary, but perhaps a list of my favorite takeaways from today. I think it's clear that Canada is on the map. It's big, and investment in Canada is being attracted, facilitated, and accelerated. And CETA provides a powerful tool and backdrop and a basis for more. I think, Philippe, you stressed that again, and others did just before you. Stefano said, please call us. I think that's the most direct message that one can send here. I think that speaks to all 6 speakers from Canada, and in a way, certainly also for the EU delegation in Canada and to Canada, which is also open there to support businesses. There are many things that stuck out today, I would say. Themes like growth and growth on many levels, including growth in population, growth in smart people, growth in skilled workers, which in turn facilitates not just investment, but also trade and trade in services in particular. And I think these are very attractive messages that have been sent here today by all of you. There are different focuses of the places in Canada that express themselves today. There are other places that we couldn't hear directly from. But these focuses often have, to some extent, have several themes that I think are common, or at least revolve around the same themes. And these are themes that are on literally everybody's minds today. Clean, green, digital. I think the term disruptive technology or disruptive tech was stressed by Jens Michael. There certainly was a lot of disruptive tech on display today, and more could have been displayed. All of this, I think, shows that there is a lot of music in this, and probably a lot more. One thing that I, as a lawyer, pick up on is regulatory support or the regulatory environment. And here, I think there are aspects that were highlighted, sometimes in passing, sometimes explicitly, by our speakers today. Julia stressed that the government is taking inputs from businesses very seriously. And I think that is a little bit the spirit of the place. The culture of collaboration and cooperation was stressed. I think that's important. We in Europe have a lot of experience with federalism on sometimes multiple levels. The Canadian federalism is an amazing beast, but the collaboration is across levels of government and across the aisle, as they would have said in other places at least, political aisle is impressive, and I think that is part of the encouragement here to fill this with further life. CETA is a partnership. CETA is part of an important partnership, and it's a partnership that also, and perhaps very explicitly these days, forms a part of that green alliance, that green partnership that brings Europe and Canada together very visibly. Some high-profile projects have been mentioned today. And that leads me to an important just hint, which is that there is another webinar coming up on the 7th or 8th of June with the self-explanatory title, The EU and Canada, a like-minded partnership on circular economy. And that is just one of the themes that, that show how much Europe and Canada are in a like-minded partnership on a lot of things that are green and clean and digital. With that woefully incomplete list of takeaways, I would hand over to Ana Gallarte for some concluding remarks before I close this webinar. Ana, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you very much, Hans, for the takeaways. And yes, only very brief. It has been a very, very interesting and informative webinar. I hope our participants will think, I'm sure that will think the same. I just really want to thank Saika, Chandra, Stefano, Julia, Jens Michel, and Philippe for being here for your representations. You can really feel that you are you are really selling very well the territories where you are working. We have this vision at federal, provincial, and also municipal level. As we have said from the beginning, of course, Canada is a strategic partner for us. That's why we really are trying from our side to do our best to bring business together at the commercial, trade, and investment level. Your priorities are our priorities, clean tech, digital, raw materials, agriculture. So I think we share all of that. Without saying more, I really thank you very much for your presentations were excellent. I thank Gopa for this putting together all these wonderful speakers. And I hope to see you in the next webinar, as Hannes was saying. And I guess, Hannes, correct me if I am wrong, you will be able to receive the presentations that were provided today, and you will be able also to see the recording of this webinar. We can provide you the link afterwards. Thank you very much for being here, and hope you have a great end of the day.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I need to say one more thing without wanting to have the last word, which is that there is a post-event survey that has a link currently posted in the chat. You will also receive it by email. Please do help us understand what you liked, what you would like to see done differently, if anything, by filling in the survey. It helps greatly. With that, all the things have been said. Let me just join Anna then in thanking the speakers and you as the participants, and of course the EU delegation to Canada. Have a nice afternoon and a nice morning.
Farewell. Bye.